Appreciate you guys joining us today. We are going to have a shorter session than we've had in the past. Instead of being closer to 75 to 90, this is going to be closer to, let's say, 60 in that area. So we're going to be discussing and continuing with what we did last week in regards to dealing with calls from outside the area or deep. The aims of today, this should be similar to you guys. You all should have seen this already in regard to, the role of the goalkeeper out of possession, the decision-making process. We're going to have a deep dive into the decision-making process. We touched on it last week. We're going to get really deep there today. We're going to speak to the 6 areas. We saw the map last week, and we're going to get into that. And we're going to see actually video with services coming from those different areas and how it's different by area and how it'll be different thought process as well when dealing with those different service types from those different areas. We're also going to break into the 5 elements of development. We're going to speak to the technical, the physical, psychological, and the social elements and have a breakout room around those too. Each coach is going to talk to each of those. And then lastly, we're going to basically do a specific deep dive into zone 4, and then we're going to conclude after zone 4. Coaches, anything you guys want to add to that intro in regards to what we're doing today?
All good today.
Okay. Cool. Silence accept. Just moving forward here. All right. So here we're going to get going, guys. The speak to the 6 rooms, get into the delivery, into the box from those areas. Get right into it. Here are the 6 zones. Now, why is this important? This is important because when we're speaking to service at different levels, we're in different locations of the pitch, we need you to understand where exactly we're talking about. And this, to me, is very important because we're not going to change our lingo. We're going to speak to the deep service in area 1. We're going to speak to the angled service in area 2, central 3, and you can see 4, 5, and 6. But at the same time, when we're saying there's a narrow service happening, we need you to be able to visualize exactly where this service is taking place on the field because we are going to break these down in detail. So please, if you can, guys, jot these down, know these 6, get an understanding quickly if you can, because that will be the basis of our conversation, not only today, but going forward. Oops. All right, let me, for some reason, I am stuck on this screen, Sammy. There we go. Cool. All right, guys, here's what we're going to do. We're going to get into some videos of all 6 zones. So let's have a quick peek about 2 minutes.
Último elemento. Ahí está el esloveno, hoy con poco trabajo, despejaba de... Autoriza a Sánchez Martínez, ahí está el balón de Parejo, servicio tocadito, segundo palo, mete el puño Thibaut Courtois, la pelota en la frontal, la engancha Carlos Soler.
Ensayada, pero quizá demasiado elaborada. Y Joaquín Canales, es un tuyo a mí, ahora Joaquín por el centro, sale Llano Black, no ataja, despeja con los puños, Guido Rodríguez.
Maximovic, aparece Arambarri, fácil para Courtois. Un parado para el Villarreal. Balón al segundo palo, sale Courtois.
Ubicado es el Getafe. Dentro desde la banda.
Por dentro para Maximovic, abre Mata, viene el centro para Courtois.
Sergio Canales, el balón de Canales, no pudo elevarse. Barragán.
Tanto del empate para el Celta, llama el servicio hacia Naria, los puños de Oblak. Se ofrece por la izquierda Frangame, deja de nuevo para Cubo y ese envío lateral.
Jornada 31 a 10 puntos de mantener. Cuidado.
Vaya el centro ahora de
lo que es un poco el estatus natural de este equipo, con esto de defenderse cerca del área. Y que quiere inventar, se viene el centro de Yuri, la pone Yuri, se le escapó en primera instancia Courtois.
Do we not get the byline? I'm going to hit pause real quick. I think I missed the byline one.
sale beneficiado es el equipo y luego en todas las demarcaciones. Cuidado.
Toca Mata, con que recordarlo una y otra vez. Atención que viene el Granada con potencia. Segundo palo. Carlos Fernández que llega al remate.
Cool. So those videos, notice the difference in the service in swinger versus out swinger. Notice the difference in the distance and where the services are taking place. Notice some serves are taking them with a catch immediately into a distribution. Some are looked to just box right back out to where it came from. Some are one-handed box, continuing the service on through the other side. Notice where their starting positions are and how they vary based on where the service is coming from. You know, as they get closer, you're seeing almost a low ball or a mid-range height dive to get the cross and collect the cross, whereas when they're further out, you're looking more for footwork, and you see their footwork getting them behind the ball and moving forward through the service. I want you guys to also pay attention to how many people are in the box. Is there a dangerous area? Is there 5 to 6 people in the 6 box, or is it more spread out where goalkeepers have time to make adjustments? What I'd like to do is, based on that conversation and those points, I want to watch this again, because after this, we're going to break out into a breakout room with a respective coach, and we're going to dive deep into these with some observations. So if you can, focus on some of those things I just spoke to: starting position, service types, decision-making, punch versus catch, the before, the during, and the after, and that thought process. There's a lot to take in. What can you take in before the service even occurs? What's happening during the run of play and the decision-making process then, in addition to what can you plan to move forward in regards to the after. All right, so let's watch this one more time. Keep those things in the back of your mind. Take notes, please, because we will be doing a deep dive.
Principal y vamos a ver por qué ya, bueno, es que no es que vaya a calentar, es que ya
Black, no, claro, como último elemento. Ahí está el esloveno, hoy con poco trabajo, despejaba de...
Autoriza a Sánchez Martínez, ahí está el balón de Parejo, servicio tocadito, segundo palo, mete el puño Thibaut Courtois, la pelota en la frontal, la engancha Carlos Soler.
ensayada, pero quizá demasiado elaborada. Y porque Joaquín Canales es un tuya mía. Ahora Joaquín por el centro. Salillano Black no ataja. Despeja con los puños. Guido Rodríguez.
Maximovic. Aparece Arambarri. Fácil para Courtois. Un parado para el Villarreal. Balón al segundo palo. Sale Courtois.
Ubicado es el Getafe. Dentro desde la banda.
Por dentro para Maximovic. Abre Mata. Viene el centro para Courtois.
Sergio Canales. El balón de Canales. No pudo elevarse. Barragán.
Tanto del empate para el Celta. Llama el servicio hacia el área. Los puños de Oblak. Se ofrece por la izquierda Frangame, deja de nuevo para Cubo y ese envío lateral.
Jornada 31 a 10 puntos de mantener. Cuidado.
Vaya el centro ahora de
Lo que es un poco el estatus natural de este equipo, con esto de defenderse cerca del área. Y que quiere inventar, se viene el centro de Yuri, la pone Yuri, se le escapó en primera instancia Courtois.
Sale beneficiado es el equipo y luego en todas las demarcaciones. Cuidado.
Toca Mata, con que recordarlo una y otra vez. Atención que viene el Granada con potencia. Segundo palo. Carlos Fernández que llega al remate.
Perfect. Perfect. So what, coaches, I'd like us to do is, in our respective groups with the goalkeepers that we have, not only do we want to discuss these couple points that you see here on the screen, do us a favor and compare them by zone. So zone 1, you might see this, zone 2, and not looking for a deep dive in each zone at this point, because we're going to do that individually, but comparing, comparing a zone 1 versus zone 6 versus zone 4. So have that conversation in addition to the 4 bullets that we have listed here on the screen. Coaches, any questions?
Good, mate.
Oh.
Yep.
Goalkeeper's all set. You guys ready to rock and roll? Sam, you ready to go, buddy?
Yeah, mate. Break room's all sorted. Just got to click the button.
All right, let's jump in there. Have some fun. Take your time. Break it down deep, everybody. Get deep with this, please. Hello? Oh, are we, guys? We have the numbers here. I'm the last one joining back again. We missed somebody.
Noah did have to leave. He apparently had high school practice that he had to go to. So
That's cool. Was he in your group, Steve?
yes. Yeah. And then it just turned out it was me and Erickson finished out.
Cool. Where's I'm just looking for Sam to see if he's going to rejoin us. I see his still video, but usually he has 2 on there. Sam, are you there, buddy?
No, he's not there yet. That's the other one.
That's what I thought. Okay.
He had computer issues in the breakout room. So
Sam did?
yeah.
Okay.
I'm sort of back here now.
There he is. Well, let's
iPad now.
all right, so as long as I know Hannah's in your group, Sam, I'll just pick on Hannah.
I got Hannah, Ethan, Charlie Irwin was in mine as well, and Rowan was in mine for a period, and then I think she went over for yours.
Perfect. Well, let's start with your group then. Let's I'm going to give us some generic or some general observations from the 6 zones. Whatever you want to start with, truthfully. I'll let you guys as a group kind of present. Go right ahead.
So Hannah, you can start with you. Hannah, you go with your zones that you were speaking about first.
Well, we were discussing like the differences between zones 1, 2, and 3 and zones 4, 5, and 6, and whether or not we're collecting it. So in zones 1, 2, and 3, you really focus on like collecting the ball and capturing it, whether or not there's a lot of people or not. And zones 4, 5, and 6, we're more worried about punching it and getting it out through all the people there. So
Was people the main reason for the box versus catch?
yeah.
That's not just to you, Hannah. That's to your whole group. Was that the main focus? Was the number of people in your box?
Yeah, I think obviously the things we can see are people, whether we don't know about whatever else is going on, we can only judge from what we see. So I think the overview we got was obviously the flutter balls with pace coming through bodies. Your first thought is punch through. So yeah, I think from what we could see, it was the main area was coming through crowd of people.
Cool. My group, Maddox, Rowan, what would we add to that? We talked a little bit about the different services from the distances. What was the main thing we now have if the service was out wide like that, like they were discussing?
Like the shooter's cue.
Shooter's cues, specifically, what could that tell you?
Where the ball is probably going to end up going.
Meaning what? There's a specific thing I'm looking for. What versus what?
Like
keeper versus away.
Yeah.
Keeper versus away is a good one. Awesome. But even like in-swinger versus out-swinger, right? Right, Max? We talk about the shooter's cue.
Yeah.
Just take it to the next level of that description. You know, if it's a right foot on the right flank, you might get that out-swinger happening, right? And that helps with those, specifically what Hannah was talking about in those different zones, you know? And what about time? We talked a little bit about time in my group. What's the difference there?
If it's more like deep, then you have like you can take more steps to like find your ball line and get set.
Awesome. Versus if it's a cutback from the byline, what type of cross intake are we handling? Maddox, Rowan.
Wait, can you say that again? You cut out.
Okay. If it was on the byline and a cutback, what type of save from a crossing? We're going to take in this cross. How? What type? Are we going to have opportunity to move our feet as much?
No. Probably
not. No. So what type? It's almost like a low ball diving save, and we saw a bunch of those in the video. To be truthful, we'll go back to that video in a moment. Cool. Stuart, let's go to your group if we can. Talk about some of like the starting positions and what impacts them. If you could have your group just kind of discuss that, please.
So I had the other Charlie and Alexa May in my group. I asked them a couple of questions about what they saw, and it was quite weird because they found the Spanish quite disturbing. So they kind of lost there was elements of they lost where they were looking at, and lost part of the video and lost part of the technical stuff. because of the blurb in the background. But we talked about the elements, and we talked about things that I'd actually seen, and the points that I picked out, and the key areas and some of the key technical bits. Like they were still coming and using their knee for protection. How many crosses were dropped? So if there weren't many crosses dropped, had they got the starting position right? Where they were, one of the main ones we talked about for a short period of time was the one ball that was delivered from the central area, where all the defenders watched the goalkeeper come and claim it. So we talked about that for a prolonged period of time more than anything, because we're wondering why the defenders kind of stopped and let an attacker run free on the goalkeeper, who then claimed it as his midriff. So we were looking at that. We talked about the punches and punching when it was crowded and the different. But that was a large part of what we discussed. Purely and simply, it seemed to lose a little bit with the Spanish in the background, which made it a little bit difficult to pick out what they want to focus on. But when we watch it again in a minute, they'll probably pick more out of it and will have taken that away.
Oh yeah, and we will watch that again, guys, and come back, because I do want to. Was there, Steve, your group? Could you talk about the before, during, and after? Did you have time to get into that level with them?
Not necessarily. We kind of focused a little bit more so on the positioning and changing from zone to zone.
Go right ahead, elaborate. Who was in your group, Steve?
I was with Erickson.
Cool.
So Erickson, go ahead and talk about what we were kind of discussing when they were dribbling from the wide area into the byline, and kind of how that changes your positioning.
So when they're on the wide area, you want to have a more central position for the potential cross, so you can be more versatile in what the striker could do. But the closer they get to the net, particularly when they get to the 18-yard, you want to take the narrow post. You want to go to the front narrow post. So if they do a short pass to get a better angle at the net, they can't score a near post shot. But if they cross all the way over the other side, you can just switch to the other side and do the same thing.
What's the first thing you need to defend always?
The net, right?
Don't say with a question mark. Say with authority, man. The goal. You're protecting the goal first, Erickson. Come on, man. That's right, Paul. Yeah. So you got to always protect, to your point, right? You got to find that ball line. The closer they get, the more you want to be ready for the shot instead of the service. But you got to be prepared for that. 100% right, man. 100% right.
And also, Erickson, talk about the point that you brought up with punching. Erickson brought up a very good point that I think would be useful for the group to hear. Height versus distance. So Erickson, go ahead and elaborate on that, man.
So you want height more than distance, because you could have distance, but it could be a low ball, and the other team could just respond with a kick or a header that just launches into the net because you're being highly aggressive. But if you did a high ball, worst comes to worst, it goes straight up and you just punch it again farther out, and the other team doesn't get a possible shot.
That happens more than you think.
Yeah, so ideally, Erickson and I kind of talked about you'd like to get both. You'd like to get height and distance on your punches. But the point that I made to Eric was, if it comes off of the bottom part of your fist and bounces out to that striker, the holding mid right up at the top of the 18, a lot of times they can have enough time to take a touch, and it's a service right back in on goal. Whereas if you do get the height on it, worst case scenario, you reset your feet, you re-attack the ball, and then that time you can either go up and catch, or you can go up and try and get the distance and the height going out to the side.
Typically when that happens, when that ball goes straight up in the air, who's the only one in the field typically that knows where the ball went?
The keeper, right?
Keeper. You go for a ball in a crowd area and you go through the box, and that ball goes straight up in the air. The other forwards, they don't know where it went. You know what I mean? They just kind of went up and then down. They're not look. You know exactly where that ball went. So you go straight up for that aggressively and go for that catch. I guarantee you'll go up uncontested. You have a lot of people yelling maybe about it, but you should go up uncontested for that catch. Cool. Anything anyone want to add before we take one more look at these and then jump into the next group of videos? Coaches all set?
Yeah, mate, all good.
All right, let's do it then. I'm going to go back into the presentation. We're here. All right. One more time, guys. Just turn your volume down if the Spanish is seriously bothering you. Great footwork, service from wide. Same here, plenty of time to get your footwork out, box into a group of people. Kind of low in the box. I think that's the one where everyone said they caught low, very low actually. Could you have caught that higher? Notice no one's wide. I'm going to talk about that in a moment. Easy. Easy footwork. Here's the other one too. Sorry, caught it low. I think that might have been the other one that Stuart was talking about. Yeah. Nice and easy through a crowd. The higher you get it, the less confrontational you're going to be. Notice the number of people now are in the 6 as these services start to get a little closer to the byline. Excuse me. So the room for error has become a lot less. You cannot mess this up, right? Too many people around you. Too many people are really close by you. Rebound potential. Now we're starting to get into some diving. One step in attack. There's a good one here. Parry right back to where it came from. That parry goes top of the box. That's a goal.
Y que quiere inventar, se viene el centro de Yuri, la pone Yuri, se le escapó en primera instancia Courtois.
Sale beneficiado es el equipo y luego en todas las demarcaciones. Cuidado. Toca, mata, con tierra.
Any rebound there, that's a goal. That's good stuff. You know, we talk about that a couple times in regards to, oopsie. There we go. We've spoken about that. So for my group, we've been doing this for the past couple of weeks. We've been working on this topic. And the one thing I want to talk to you guys about there was if there's a rebound when you're going for that ball inside your 6, when you're diving out in those cutbacks, that rebound is dead center. You'll notice some of their goalkeepers here, they caught it or they almost parried it back to where it came from out wide, which was interesting to me. But that threat of a rebound inside that area is immediate. So be very, very, very specific about that. Coach, is anything you want to add based on that rewind? Coaches, no? Good?
Yeah, so I think something from the tactical, looking at, I think it was one of All Black for Athletic Madrid. I think it was the 76th minute, 1-0 up, come for the cross, but then just taking the ball down onto the floor with him, just to gobble up those few seconds, just to take that pressure off the defence for that split second. Be that calming person at the back that's going to be like, right, I've dealt with the cross now. Defenders, you can take a couple seconds, get yourself ready, get in your shape, and just being that dominant figure at the back, being like, I got this, guys, don't worry, but I'm comfortable. I'm going to take the pressure off you now, and start building an attack from there.
Yeah. One thing we didn't really get into a lot of discussion about was the after. You know, after you make that cross, you take that cross in, the distribution piece. And one thing that I love to focus on is after you collect something cleanly, sprint to the top of your box. Get past that first line of potential defenders that are deep inside your 6. Get through there, play into space to one of your players out going making a run through that space. It's always there on the deep when they get close to the byline and put that deep service in. If you can collect that and get to the top of your box, you're going to beat that first and possibly second line of defense with a quick throw or roll to and on one of your teammates going. And you saw some of that in some of the clips.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, let's get into the next piece here. All right. That's what we just saw, yeah. Now we're going to get into zone 4. So the serves you're going to see now are 4, and some of them creep in a 6, kind of in the byline. So we're going to basically now watch some video. I think it's only like 3 clips, 4 clips of service from this area. And then we're going to break out into groups again, but we're going to discuss the 5 elements of development. So each group is going to get an element, okay? So focus on it from that angle, if you can. This should be short. Look at the service, right inside the 6. A lot of people inside the 6. Look at the box. He doesn't catch that. That guy is right there for that. Do this one more time here. Focus on all of those different things that we just talked about. Look how deep that 6 is. Look how many people are in there. That's a dangerous ball. Almost rips it there too. Look where the back line is inside his 6. Forward comes in. High ball. What can you say about the service from the number 4, that wide area there? What would you what type of ball are we dealing with?
High balls, chips
high balls.
maybe.
Yep, high balls, driven balls, in swinger, out swinger. So you're going to get a lot of those balls in the air. So we're going to get up there and talk about that. So whoever has the technical piece, I believe that's Sam. You know, I know you guys will be focusing on that. So let's do this then. Let's get into the. Hold on one second. There we go. So can you guys see this screen or no? I think I just took it back. So what we'll do now here is in this group, we're going to go and speak to zone 4 and discuss the specific elements of development. So in your respective groups, Sam's going to have the technical group. Sam's going to have the tactical group. Stuart, you'll have the technical. I will have the physical. And Steve, you'll be dealing with psychological and the social aspect of development. So guys, 5-10 minutes, we'll come on back, and then we'll each present our element of development to the group, and then this is a wrap for today. So if you guys can just bust this out with some good conversation, I definitely want to hear from the other elements. So we will, Sam, if you can break us out into our respective groups.
Okay.
We'll go from there, man. All right, I'm not the last one. I like it.
That'll be Stuart now, won't it? Stuart will be the last one.
Yeah, I can hear Tony now. Right?
Awesome.
Cool. So we'll give everyone a couple minutes to do their thing, and we'll get them out of here. Sammy, how's that sound, buddy?
Yeah, mate. Perfect, dude.
Cool. Maybe like 10, 15 left. We got one more group coming back. Ethan, how you doing, brother?
Oh, I'm doing good,
Things
thank
good?
you. Yeah, all good.
Nice.
Yeah.
Maddox, were you with Ethan when you guys were waiting for me earlier?
Yeah.
Cool. Sorry about that, Ethan. I didn't mean to hook you up with Maddox. My bad.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine.
Maddox is a good kid, man. You guys should get along well. We got
Yeah.
Charlie coming back. We got Alexa coming back. Stuart, how are you, sir? How'd it go over there?
Yeah, it was good.
Good. So let's do this. I'm just going to go in the order I have it written down. No other reason for it, which definitely puts Sam at the top of the list. So Sam, I'll turn it over to you and your group, sir.
I'm always first name on the team sheet, mate. Don't worry.
Yeah, that's right. Number 22 on the roster, number 1 in your hearts, right?
That's it. Yeah, we had a really good conversation. Obviously, it was tough with the tactical sort of aspect with the clips we had. So we had Hannah and Ethan. They focused on the Lloris one really. So yeah, Ethan and Hannah, I'll pass over to you guys.
Yeah. So in that first game, it was Tottenham West Ham. and Tottenham were winning 1-0, and it was quite far into the game. So West Ham would have wanted that equaliser or that win. So their tactic was to kind of crowd the goalkeeper almost. So they had like every player in apart from the goalkeeper to try and like higher the chances of them scoring a goal off that corner. So at the time, Lloris was kind of wanting to only get at least a touch on it to stop any possibility of them scoring. So obviously you don't have that moving space when everyone's crowding you. So he just had to parry it, and that's what saved them that opportunity.
Cool. It's interesting. Sam, go ahead. Sorry.
Sorry, Hannah, do you want to add anything to that?
No, we basically covered it.
Yeah, awesome.
If you do parry it, typically in that service environment, what's backdoor? If you get enough of the parry, that ball goes to nobody, and it just kind of rolls out for a throw-in, or sometimes a corner. But usually most of the folks are backdoor between that 6 edge and the 6 where it hits your end line and that back post. That little parry over the top, it's golden. So don't feel you have to put a lot of power on that. That's a great point.
Yeah, very good.
Let's continue down with technical. Stuart, I'm going to turn it over to you, sir.
So again, I had Charlie and Alexa. I'm going to pass over to them in a second. We discussed a little bit about, the Hugo Lloris one and what we saw from that, and also the way Dean Henderson gathered the ball in the last catch, and again tried to break the line and break a Wolves line, exactly as you said. As soon as he caught it, he looked to move to the edge of the area and try and get Sheffield United on the way. So I'll hand over to Charlie and Alexa, and they can elaborate on them points.
Charlie, my friend, I hate to say this, but looks like you're running solo with this one. Alexa might be having issues because she's been on and off throughout this session. But Charlie, I'm going to turn it over to you, sir.
Well, I suppose, I was struggling with this one, but the points I got was about, with the Lloris one, with the first one, obviously we're talking about how quite cluttered he was. Like, there were a lot of defenders around him. And when he made the punch up, we had to be ready for the second phase. But, of course, Antonio was actually standing in the way of him. So he did really well to, stretch his arm around him and make the second save. So I suppose maybe when he punched it, he could have punched it to, I don't know, maybe he could have punched it to a better position, more clear out of the way. And then he had more time to kind of get in front of the forwards instead of behind them.
Fair. Stuart, what else would you add to that, sir?
We talked about the way Lloris was being crowded out. So the same way other groups have been saying, and the technical aspect of how he got something on that cross, where it's gone, because it's gone over his back shot. It's gone out basically to his back right-hand corner of the box, and West Ham have had a second phase from it. Mm-hmm. Could he have affected it more? Was there a way for him to get round Antonio to either claim the ball or get a stronger punch on to deliver it back where it's come from, possibly out for a throw? There was all these aspects that we talked about, but I think the fact that Antonio blocked him off left him with his one decision, and it's how his hand has come and effectively put partially a glance more than anything on it, because it's gone to the top right-hand corner rather than a proper connection.
Nice. Guys, that right there, what you're doing right now, this video analysis, for those looking to play in college and university, this happens on every touch you make. You analyze it with your goalkeeper coach. And that, what Stuart was just doing, how to go about, the technical breakdown and what could have been versus what you did do is exactly how we go about developing our lesson plans for our goalkeepers when we look at their in-game moments. And do we see trends, or is it just a one-time instance? But that analysis right there was spot on with how you would work with your goalkeeper coach in college. That was great.
And
go ahead, Stuart.
To go on from that slightly, Charlie asked me that same question, because he said that in the videos he struggled to watch everything. Yep. And that I reminded them that if you're going to when you're doing analysis, you may only pick up 40%. And I explain the way I look at things, which might not be the same for everyone else. So because we were doing technical, I focused on the goalkeeper, and I wait for the ball to come in my view of the goalkeeper and the ball in the same sphere, rather than trying to watch the way the ball's being delivered, because the flight of the ball and the direction and the angle of the ball will probably give me an idea of how it was delivered and then how we would deal with it. That's one thing that they found was quite, because they're trying to look everywhere and their head's like that, and they're going, and then we go, how do you think Larissa's punch was? And they're going, we kind of missed that punch because we're looking at all the other aspects. But that was a really good point that Charlie made out. I don't know where to look to start. And that's something we emphasised on. And then, like you've just said there, it's how you break stuff down and how you look at it.
The more you guys can get video analysis and understand what goalkeeper coaches are looking for, it's awesome. And the easier it's going to be for you to break that down for Stuart's point there. That's good stuff. Cool. Moving on. We're going to go into the physical component, which was Maddox and Rowan. Who wants to start out of the two of you? That was my group.
I'll start.
I can. All right, you can start.
They're racing to get the one or the other, I'll bet. Rowan, go ahead.
So we talked about being very confident / strong in your box. And because whenever you're going up for the ball, you don't want to seem like a coward to all the other forwards. And you might get knocked, but you want to knock them more. But we just talked about being fast and explosive and vocal, and how you want to show them that that's your box. So
good. Maddox, you want to add to that?
Yeah, you have to have a strong presence going up for a ball. Like, you have to be ready to be hit. And then as you're going up, you have to have that strong keeper call to almost set off the forward going up with you on it.
Absolutely. Some of these services that we saw in those 3 clips, they were all inside your 6. And if you're not at an urgent status, or if your blood's not flowing with adrenaline when the ball's in the 6, that's the most delicate part of the field right there. You know, we need to be sensitive to that. So that's ours. So to Maddox's point about the vocals and Rowan's point about the vocals, I say this all the time, and it's probably my worst joke with goalkeeping, but I say it all the time because that's probably why it's bad, because I say it all the time. We're the only one in the field that can yell the name of our position and use it as a weapon. Keeper! And come up strong. When you go up for that ball, you're never going to go up against a forward trying to intimidate you going forward and going up in the header, right? Like, you just won't. So the intimidation, that's us from a vocal perspective. Abuse it. Be loud. Be confident. Get them to twitch. That little twitch is going to throw them off balance. And then to Maddox and Rowan's point, you go up strong for that. If you're collecting that ball up here above your head and going forward, you should never have contact with anybody unless they have an amazing vertical leap for their age group, right? But if you collect it down here, now someone can run through this ball path and put that little flick in and beat you to that. So can we collect it higher and move forward through the line of the ball? In addition to, can we have a nice loud goalkeeper call? Nice. Anyone want to add to that? I just kind of summarized Rowan and Maddox right there for that. Okay. Steve, I'm going to turn it over to you then for the social and the physical and the psychological perspective, please.
All right. Yeah. I'm not sure. There he is, Erickson. All right, Erickson, you're up, bud.
All right. So we talked about 3 things for the psychological effect. I remember 2 of them. I'm not sure I remember the 3rd one. But the decision making. So you have to make sure that your decisions are fast, so you don't hesitate and mess up something worse than what it could have been if you just made the decision. Fear of contact. If you are afraid to make physical contact with people, you oftentimes won't get the ball and it will just be a goal. And then the 3rd one was
you buzz Steve in if you need to.
Yeah, what was it?
Yeah, so we talked a little bit about kind of the decision making. Instead of hesitating, making that decision, making it early. I think that was kind of the 3rd point, is making that call early, making the decision early. So that way it's not you're sitting there, and to the point, first step, no step, make the decision, but don't sit there and wait for the ball to go in as you're going up for it and then yell keeper right before it hits your hands. So making that decision nice and early, nice and loud, so that way your defenders can kind of go and react accordingly. But we spent a lot of our time on the social aspect. So there were a couple points that I know Erickson's going to talk very in-depth on.
Go right ahead.
So you have to have a good system with your defenders so they know when you're going to come out, what you're going to do, and you don't just overcrowd each other. And you have to communicate well with them, and you should be the only one communicating with them for certain things, because if you're like yelling for them to get out of the box and then they're yelling for the other people to come in the box, it's just going to be confusing and no one's going to know what to do, and the other team's going to take advantage of that and score, which is counterintuitive to the whole idea of communicating.
So, Erickson, what 2 calls did we talk about?
Keeper and away.
Right, so keeper and away. So, Erickson did a very good job right when we first came in. I asked him, who's the only one that should be yelling keeper? And he goes, oh, well, it should be the goalie, because if your defenders are yelling, then it just causes nothing but chaos. And another point that I want to bring up is with the coaching staff. All right, a lot of times, especially at a younger age, you'll hear the coach trying to make that decision for the goalie. But again, if the goalie's yelling away and the coach is yelling keeper, it can still cause that confusion. So, Erickson, when did we say that kind of conversation should take place?
Before the game.
Okay, perfect. So before the game, at practice, where the goalie is kind of the one that makes that decision of, hey, I'm going to make the decision because I don't care if you're tired, all right? I'm either going to announce that I'm coming. I'm either going to announce that I'm not coming. And I need my team in front of me to work with me, as opposed to if my defense is tired and they don't want to go up for the header and they just go, oh, keeper's got it. And then my keeper's going, hey, away. Like, I'm not going to be able to get to that. And then the ball drops 9 times out of 10. That forward's going to get on the end of it, and odds are it's going to end up in a goal. All right. So, Erickson, talk a little bit about the kind of the team social element.
So each player needs to know how each other's going to act so they can work more efficiently to progress the game in their purpose. Otherwise, the midfielders will do more defensive or more offensive, or the defensive players could just come back and then not allow the goalkeeper to come out and get the ball, and then that would allow the strikers on the other team to get closer to the net, and it would just be bad. So they each need to know what they're doing, and they need to communicate continuously so they know what each other's doing, as well as so they can know if anything changes.
Talk about that confidence factor that we were talking about.
If the players aren't confident in their abilities, the other players need to know that so they can step in for them if they're confident, of course, etc. But each player needs to be confident with what they're doing. Otherwise, they aren't going to be able to really do anything.
So what happens if the keeper is going up and they're just claiming every single cross that comes into their box, right? That, A, makes the goalie confident in himself, right? But B, also makes the defense confident in their goalie. All right. The point that I made to Erickson was I brought up the Chelsea game over the weekend, where after Chelsea conceded their 4th goal, it was on a ball that, since there's no crowd right now, you can really hear the center backs and the Chelsea back line yelling for the keeper to come out, but you don't hear a word from the goalie, right? So after that, needless to say, there's that confusion, and Liverpool end up scoring that 4th goal. And there's a screenshot, and you see 5 or 6 Chelsea guys turned around reaming out their goalie, saying, why didn't you come for that? We need to hear you. We need to hear that communication out of the back. So that was pretty early in the second half. Now, do you guys think that back line has a whole lot of confidence in their goalie? No, right? So now what's kind of the reaction on that? Is if your defense doesn't have confidence in your goalie, are they going to play how they usually do, or are they going to start second-guessing themselves a little bit? And this is open to everybody.
Yep, second-guessing for sure.
Right? So they start to second-guess themselves where, hey, I'm not sure if my goalie is going to get to that, and maybe you start to see a little bit more collision with the center backs going up for the same ball that the goalie's going for, or you start to see them playing a little bit more out of position to be a little bit more overly cautious or taking a little bit more of a risk to try and eliminate that ball getting to the goalie. So another point was with Sam, he brought up the Ederson clip a couple weeks ago. That's a big social aspect on when Ederson came out and kind of cleaned out his new center back because they didn't play together before, right? So having that defensive familiarity and that unit to play together, that's a big social element where the goalies and the back lines need to really get used to playing with each other. That's a big part of in-game making decisions, and it leads to that confidence that you have in your goalie to come out and claim things, and that the goalie has in their back line to go and clean things up for them. Make sense?
Absolutely. That's great. That's great. And especially with this deep zone or the deep service or that wide service, everything's getting pushed. Look what the videos we saw, they're getting put right into that box. So that point you brought up about Chelsea and who says keeper is, I can't emphasize that enough, guys. If you're hearing your coach, someone mentioned this earlier, if the coach on the sidelines yelling keeper and you're not going for it, you got to have a conversation with your coach. And I mean that wholeheartedly. Like, that's not acceptable. So definitely, and same thing with players. Your backs can't be saying keeper for you either, and that needs to be straightened out immediately if that's happening on your field.
Yep, it's called the goalie's box for a reason. Any service that's brought in, that's your box, right? You need to go up and, like the point that Eric brought up with that physicality part, if you're going up and you have to clear out your own center back to go and get that ball and claim the ball, that's your ball for a reason.
Yep, agreed. Good, man. Good stuff, guys. Good stuff. So let's just get here. Oopsie daisy. One thing I always want to go back to this point this was last week's stuff, right? At the same time, good review. We talked about our set position and what impacts it. We talked about that earlier. We also talk about some of the common issues. Now we're getting much more in-depth with this based on each zone. So keep these two slides in mind when moving forward, because the next episode, next week, we're going to talk about, zones 1 through 6, excluding 4, and get into the same type of conversations around, the 5 elements of development, common issues, your set position, where you would start, the starting position, and how to go about dealing with those types of services, because for a lot of you this is new, and I know most of you here are mid-teens, 17 to 14 in that area. It's still new in your game, so I can't support. I would like to support you guys taking in as much information as you possibly can and seeing as much video, because you can only replicate this on the training pitch so many times with goalie coaches. All right. Well then, Sam, anything you want to add, sir?
No, mate, fantastic. So I think obviously everyone getting involved with the chats and stuff. I think from where we started last month, everyone's now talking more, being more open about their opinions and not being too afraid to say the wrong thing, because we're all in the same boat. We're all keepers. We're not listening to the defenders and the strikers chatting rubbish on the TV. This is all quality stuff from people that have played the position their whole life, and people that you can, as the keeper, you always say what you see, and you can always back it up with the right analysis and stuff. So yeah, for me, I think everyone getting involved has been fantastic.
Cool. Steve, Stuart, anything you guys like to add?
No, all good. All good.
Cool. All right, guys. Well, hey, thank you for everybody joining today. Next week, we're going to continue with the other zones and obviously some more video. And I know Tony wants to put in some things on set pieces. So look for that to be included next week as well. Until then, guys, have a great week. Have a great weekend. And thanks again for joining.
Thank
Coach,
you.
Stay on, please.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Good stuff, everyone.
All right. See you in a bit.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yep.
Cool. Got you on twice. You got the stop on that one recording, Sam? Are you good?